Hi, my name is Brian Cook. I'm going to be taking you through a project that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks now with the Philadelphia Eagles and their secondary and how analytics and kind of the landscape of the NFL will breed change for the Eagles and how they can continue to go with the times and make improvements to their secondary. The Philadelphia Eagles compete in the NFC East division of the NFC Conference, and to see some of the most prolific passing offenses and quarterbacks in the game today. That's including Dak Prescott from the Cowboys, who we see twice a year, Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers, who may or may not be there, but we'll list them anyway. Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks, and Matthew Stafford of the Super Bowl bound Los Angeles Rams. So I took a look at the Seattle Seahawks, and by the numbers here, we looked at three main cogs in the offense for them. Tyler Lockett, who's ranked 14th out of all possible receivers. DK Metcalf, who's ranked 15th out of all possible receivers. And Russell Wilson, who's the 20th ranked quarterback at a grade of 73.9. The thing that stood out to me about all three of these guys were that they were elite at some portion of the field. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf were both elite pass catchers in the middle of the field. Tyler Lockett beyond 20 yards, and DK Metcalf between 0 and 20 yards in the middle of the field, as well as down the right sideline. Russell Wilson was an elite thrower between 10 and 20 yards in the middle of the field and beyond 20 yards down the right sideline as well. I also took a look here at the Los Angeles Rams, and the offense that they have plenty of guys they can go to, but I just highlighted Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp for obvious reasons, and then Robert Woods because before the injury, he was the number 2 guy for them. So let's look at Cooper Kupp here in a class all of his own. There's not one portion on this field that he doesn't play well in. He was the number 2 ranked receiver, and he had a grade of 92.6. So the big thing that stuck out to me, even though he's really good at everything, was that beyond 20 yards and over the middle, he's elite. Like, he's an elite pass catcher. He's also very good at between 10 and 20 yards to the left of the numbers. So intermediate wise, he's a very good pass catcher. But specifically down the field, he makes a lot of really nice plays. Robert Woods, another really good receiver here, top 30 receiver with a 75.7 grade, receiving grade. And the thing that stuck out to me was that he was an elite pass catcher between 0 and 20 yards inside the numbers. So again, in the middle of the field. And then you have Matthew Stafford, first year with the Rams, top 10 quarterback, ranked 8th at 83.4. And the one thing that stood out to me was that between 10 and 20 yards to the left of the numbers and inside the numbers through the middle of the field, he's elite. He's got some of the highest grades, highest quarterback ratings. So Dallas by the numbers here, and I chose to go with Dallas because the Eagles see them twice a year, and to be honest, that's kind of these three teams are kind of the big offenses in the NFC. Once you get past the Tom Brady's and the Aaron Rodgers, who contract situation, they may not even be there. So I took a look at CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Dak Prescott. I chose these two receivers because I think that they're the most prolific in that offense. CeeDee Lamb, a top 10 receiver, ranked 9th, and Amari Cooper, a top 50 receiver, ranked 40th. And CeeDee Lamb is an elite pass catcher between 10 and 20 yards through the intermediate portion of the field and beyond 20 yards to the right of the numbers. While Amari Cooper is an elite pass catcher deep down the middle of the field, past 20 yards, and between the 10 and 20 to the left of the numbers. So Dak Prescott, once again, a top 10 quarterback here. He's an elite thrower outside of the numbers between 10 and 20 yards. So to me, that's just saying, hey, this guy succeeds a lot at intermediate portion of the field, right? He throws it to the right and to the left of the numbers, between 10 and 20 yards at a high rate. So you're probably sitting here wondering, what did the study of those three teams really mean, and how does it pertain to the Eagles? Well, let's be honest, NFL is dominated by the pass, and these elite NFC offenses are dominated by high quarterback play and a passing rate that exceeds more than their running rate. So I decided to make my own little table here and kind of find out the passing rate between all three of these teams, and also look at the intermediate part of the field and how much they pass there, as well as the deep portion of the field. So from left to right here, Dallas has a passing rate of 56.1%, Seattle at 51.8%, and Los Angeles with the highest at 57.3%. And that's of all total possible snaps this season. Of that passing rate percentage, these three teams pass through the middle of the field quite a bit. I'd say here Los Angeles is obviously in the top here with 25.8%. Seattle has 14.7%, and Dallas at 21.4%. The one thing that I want to highlight out of these intermediate and deep passing ranges was how often of a percentage of these rates is the ball being thrown directly across the middle of the field between the numbers. So I decided to put that in red here. And over the middle, Dallas and Los Angeles have almost half of their intermediate pass snaps going between the numbers. 54.8% for Los Angeles and 45% for Dallas, while Seattle brings in the rear at 32.8%. And that's just in the intermediate portion of the field. The deep passing rate, which naturally should be a little bit lower just because it's beyond 20 yards, you see that there's a 13.1% passing rate for Dallas, 17.4% passing rate for Seattle, and a 12% passing rate for Los Angeles. Those deep passes over the middle account to 38.4% for Los Angeles, 18.6% for Seattle, and 32.1% for Dallas. All going to say that the middle of the field is what dominates the pass game between the numbers. So in order to combat that, you have to have somebody that can cover the middle of the field. So against the pass here, I decided to figure out what the Eagles did, how they defended it, and specifically look at the over-the-middle stats because, we're focusing on, how teams are playing over the middle. Those three teams that we highlighted, especially the Cowboys, they're great throwing over the middle of the field. And some of the teams that you're going to have to beat to compete and win the division, win the conference, are going to be elite throwers and have an elite pass game between the numbers. So taking a look at the Eagles versus the pass, in 2021, the Eagles gave up 3,756 total yards through the air. Of those yards, 2,211 of them came over the middle of the field. 0 to 20 yards over the middle of the field. They also allowed 233.8 yards per game through the air. Of those yards through the air, 122.83 yards of those through the air per game came over the middle of the field. That's roughly 53% of their yards through the air per game coming through the middle of the field. Of the 28 passing touchdowns that were allowed this season, 15 of them came through the middle of the field. It also equaled out to an average passer rating over the course of the 18 games, this is including the postseason, of 100.79 for passes between 0 and 20 yards between the numbers over the middle of the field. So let's talk about what we know about the Eagles secondary as it is right now. They have 5 players in that secondary. Avonte Maddox, your slot corner in the nickel package. Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod as your 2 safeties in base and nickel packages. And Steven Nelson and Darius Slay as your 2 corners in any of the packages, nickel base, wherever you want to go with it. What I do know is, out of both the safeties and the corners, there are 2 players that are graded below where we would really want them to be ranked. The 2 lowest graded players in the Eagles secondary are hybrid safety Anthony Harris, who's ranked 54th out of 94 possible safeties, and Steven Nelson, who is ranked 61st out of 120 possible corners per PFF. The thing about Anthony Harris is that he spent over 120 total snaps in the box or in the slot, which means that he contributed to a lot of the plays that happened in the middle of the field. He was constantly in the middle of the field. Now, while Steven Nelson wasn't a key guy in the middle of the field, he was a corner that did not rank well. Darius Slay was one of the best corners in the NFL. And then on the other side, you have Steven Nelson, who kind of brought in the rear and was below 50% in terms of rank in total, PFF rankings. In an asterisk here, I put Rodney McLeod as also one of the lower rated safeties in the NFL. But the difference between him and Anthony Harris is he spent a lot of his time at free safety. So he wasn't very much in the box. But that being said, he did have some responsibility covering the deep middle of the field. So we're going to take it one position at a time here and look for suitable upgrades, specifically in the safety position here. The Eagles have roughly 9% of the salary cap tied up in defensive backs, with Darius Slay being the highest paid corner defensive back on the team at $6.61 million. Steven Nelson is set to hit free agency and now give you an extra $1.3 million if you let his contract go here. But I want to look at two potential targets that will come at a reasonable price that's not going to put us too far over that 9% range, for the safety position. So I chose two relatively young safeties in the free agency market here, in Jayron Kearse and Jordan Whitehead, one from Dallas last year and the other from Tampa Bay. And they both bring very, very redeemable qualities that the Eagles could use. And we're going to kind of go over that. And the biggest thing that I saw of these two are that the contracts are relatively affordable and something that you can do something with here. So let's look at Jayron Kearse. He spent over 200 snaps at both the slot corner and in the box. So, he has the hybrid ability that you're looking for, and he can guard in the slot position. In coverage last season, he ranked 14th out of 94 possible safeties, and he's relatively young at 28 years old. The other good thing is that his contract is roughly $15 million over 3 years. Per PFF, his projected rate would be about $5 million a year for 3 years. And then you got Jordan Whitehead, very, very tough player. Played in Tampa Bay, won a Super Bowl, and in that Super Bowl, he also had a broken collarbone. Just something to note. He's a very, very tough player, like I said. But he also spent over 150 snaps at both the slot corner and in the box. So he, once again, can give you that hybrid ability to do a couple different things. Now, while his rank was 27th out of 94 possible safeties in coverage, he's 25 years old with a lot of room to grow. His projected contract is roughly $18 million over 3 years, which is a $6 million contract a year. So instead of having Darius Slay at $6 million, now you have possibly one of these two players at $5 to $6 million, a $3 to $4 million boost over, what you usually pay in your safeties. But you get younger, you get better, and both of these guys have a chance to do something very special with the Eagles and in the scheme that they have. Draft-wise here in the safety position, I decided to pull, since we have plenty of first-round picks here, I decided to pull two guys that are possible first-rounders, early second-rounders, and a guy that could possibly slip but may fit the scheme in what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to really replace. So I have Lewis Cine from Georgia and Jaquan Brisker from Penn State, two of the top 3 ranked safeties in the whole draft per PFF, and both are in the top 40 out of 744 possible safeties in the country in coverage last season. The good thing about both of these guys is they spent plenty of time in the box, over 100 snaps in the box with the slot position, and it shows that he's more suited for that safety position, which would be an upgrade potentially over Anthony Harris. And once again, you get a young guy, obviously a lucrative contract, something that makes sense for the organization. So those two guys, in my opinion, in the first round or second round are great choices. And then looking back at the later round here, we have Brad Hawkins of Michigan. Could be a late round. He's a late round pick. He could be something potentially big for the Eagles and could go a ways in replacing Anthony Harris. But he's ranked 37th out of 744 possible safeties in coverage last season. So that's better than both Sign and Brisker. And the other good thing, once again, that versatility. He spent 226 reps in the slot position and 86 reps in the box last season. So that hybrid ability to play both slot and play in the box gives you a guy that you could possibly target late and, again, make a steal in terms of money at the safety position. So let's just jump right into corner here. And we want to get an upgrade, but we want it to make sense, right? Corner was a tougher one because there aren't as many good corners for a suitable price in free agency. So I decided to look at two guys, both 30-plus years old, but one is very affordable and the other one may be a little bit out of our price range, but is he worth the money? I think so, personally. So you have Casey Hayward Jr., 57.0 grade in man coverage, not very great, but he was ranked 13th out of 120 possible corners in coverage last season. That's amazing. Once again, he's 32 years old, but you figure you grab him for a year until maybe you can find what you want, and it's only going to cost you about $6 million. So Steven Nelson's contract was roughly $1.5 to $2 million, somewhere in that range. Well, you go up a couple $1 million, but you get a better corner. And then you have Stephon Gilmore. And in my opinion, if you're going to spend money on corner, my best guess would be to grab one of the best ones. 85.6 coverage grade in man. And he's ranked 11th at 120 possible corners in coverage last season. So you're essentially getting a player like Casey Hayward that's just better in man, right? But he's a little bit younger as well. At 31 years old, Stephon Gilmore is. But the contract is $28 million over 2 years, which is roughly $14 million a year. So once again, that's going to make him the highest paid corner. Don't know how that would sit with Darius Slay. However, I mean, you're going to get two lockdown corners on both sides, which will contribute to improving the pass game. Or the pass defense game, I'm sorry. Now, another alternative, which I think this probably makes the most sense in terms of corner, just due to the market, is to just draft a guy. You have 3 draft picks in the first round. Who's to say that one of those can't be a corner or a safety? But let's just take a peek at the corners here. So the top 2 ranked corners, you have Derek Stingley and Ahmad Gardner. So Gardner had a great year this year, ranked 14th out of 880 possible corners. And Stingley, while may not have had a great year in terms of ranking and play, he's been one of the top corners in college football for the last 3 years, including a freshman year rank of number 1. So the talent is there. It's just a matter of seeing if he would be the fit and if he can continue to improve. But the thing here is they're both long physical corners, and they specifically play outside. So, you get 2 guys that possibly could play your corner position, and then once again, you don't have to worry about such a huge contract, spending a ton of money for your corners in free agency. You get a young guy that's worth the money, possibly that can develop into a superstar. Then another guy. Now, this guy, I like to pick a late round guy. I don't think this guy is going to be a late round guy. I've done my own research on him through the film that I've watched on him, and I love Roger McCreary, and I think that he's a guy that might slip to the second round. But if 3 first-round picks and second-round picks, he could be there for you. Ranked second out of 880 possible corners in coverage last season. Specifically, the game that sticks out to me for him was against Alabama, going against Mechie and Jameson Williamson, 2 of the best receivers in college football. He stood out. Don't get me wrong, they caught a good number of passes on him, but they also targeted him a ton, and he made a lot of plays to go with it. You just in NFL, you realize you're not going to get targeted 15 times a game with one guy, right? You're going to probably get targeted 8 to 10 times at the max, maybe, and who knows what's going to happen then. But he held his own against those guys. He also played snaps in both the slot and the wide corners this season, so it's going to give you some hybrid flexibility here at playing slot corner as well as playing outside corner. And also, he's long. I mean, he's 6 feet tall. So another guy that might slip that I like, that I've been watching plenty of game tape on, and I think that he would be probably the best solution of all of the options at corner. So my conclusion to this is that the Philadelphia Eagles have an opportunity to do something special here, but it's going to start with some significant upgrades in the secondary. My biggest thing in today's landscape of the NFL is that if you don't have 5 receivers that you can shoot it out with some of the high prolific passing teams, such as the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Chiefs, any of those teams, if you don't have 5 receivers, 4 receivers, 3 receivers that can go out there and you can put up 49 points every game, then you got to have somebody that can stop them from getting 49 points a game. You have to have the defense, the defenders, the corners, the safeties that can make those plays. There needs to be an upgrade in the secondary position for the Eagles. It's simple. And in my opinion, I think that the safety play needs to get better. Specifically, I think that you can get better and upgrade from Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod, but specifically Anthony Harris. And then corner play, with Steven Nelson being a free agent, I think it's time to look for another guy that you could possibly put on the other side of Darius Slay. With that being said, over the middle of the field is the biggest thing that they need to work on improving. And there should be a conscious effort to find guys through the middle of the field, whether it's strong safeties, free safeties, slot corners, maybe adding another defensive back into the mix. It needs to be a conscious effort to improve defense over the middle of the field. And hopefully this is a blueprint or kind of an on the surface look of how they can do that and how the Philadelphia Eagles can continue to grow and become one of the great football teams of 2022 and going forward.